Bob Dr. LeVitus mixes analog and digital. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like MacVoices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is part 2 in a 2-part conversation with Bob Dr. LeVitus. Part 1 talked a little bit with Bob about how he passed the time during some of the severe weather and power outages in Texas recently. Part 2 is about his newest projects and how he's mixing the analog and digital worlds. So let's go right back to the conversation with Bob. There was one column, though, that you did write, and it's been a while now, that I've wanted to ask you about, and I think it may figure into the woodworking thing, or maybe not. You tell me. But that is your discovery of the Cricuit.
Oh, it definitely comes into play for woodworking because a lot of times I'll find a design that I need a stencil from. And so if I cut the stencil on that machine, I can transfer it to the wood and then route out the thing that I'm doing. I do a lot of epoxy resin inlay. And so like if I want to inlay an Apple logo, I have to make cut a we call them in advertising, I think we used to call them Cricuits, but they're just, sticky paper that you can put down with a design in them, and you just trace it onto the wood and execute it. So for things that I don't do repeatedly, like if I do it repeatedly, I'll make it out of 1/8-inch plywood and use it over and over again. But for things that are like somebody requests, oh, can you do the Houston Texans logo on a cutting board? I don't know. Let me look at it. I mean, if it's got a lot of shading, no, I can't. But if it's like flat colors and pretty clear lines, yeah, I can. I can cut a stencil over there on the Cricut machine, paint it onto the wood, cut it out, and then pour this epoxy in it in the right colors in the right places. I also use it for other stuff like where did I put it? When I closed working. So there it is. So one of the other things it can do is cut vinyl lettering. So I cut this sign I made by just designing it like that in the Cricut software and then having Cricut cut out the vinyl, which I then very carefully applied. But I mean, I could never do that freehand or any other way, really. It also is great for t-shirts. So here's why. If you do t-shirts, you use the regular iron-on stuff. All of the negative space is still kind of plasticky looking, and the whole thing shines and looks like you ironed it on. Now, if you cut out each individual letter of something like that, or cut out all the places where there's not supposed to be color, so the shirt color shows through, if you cut those places out, then it looks just like you silk screened it. It doesn't look, because it's not a big 8.5 by 11 patch of shiny.
Right.
And the t-shirts come out looking really great. So I made a bunch of t-shirts. And then finally, I don't have, I do. I'm going to run in the next room for a second and come back with one. But I etch glass. I use the Cricut machine to create the artwork, and then the stencil on sticky vinyl, and then I put it on glass and apply this glass etching cream only to the part that's exposed. Then in about 5 minutes, you rinse off the cream and tear off the stencil, and you've got these beautiful etched glass items. So I will run and get one in a second. Wait, do you edit these?
Sure.
The episode? Okay, so you can just pause while I go get one. But I made a glass that's got the Nurse Caduceus emblem on it. It's like, it's really intricate. There's no way I could have painted that by hand or cut a stencil by hand, but it came out perfect. So yes, the Cricut machine is amazing. I love it, but it doesn't really do the thing I bought it for. See, I originally thought, oh, well, it'll cut wood, very thin wood, but it'll cut wood. And I thought, oh, well, then I can do real inlay work, like marquetry inlay, because I can cut the wood there and it'll be perfect, rather than me trying to, saw little pieces of wood perfectly. And it didn't do that, but it does so many other things that I kept it. I bought it. And it's like, I want that. I use it all the time. So I don't know. Let me hold on. Let me take my little thumbnail so I can kind of see. Let's see. Will that work? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So oh no, that's you. How do I get me? I'm so small, I can't tell. All right, I'm going to hold this up. I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but there's Lisa and the caduceus.
Wow, that's
nice.
That is really nice.
I know. I mean, that looks like, you sent it out and had a professional actually etch the glass. Here's another one. Bob with the Working Smarter light bulb hat. Even the little tassel detail is pretty good.
Yeah.
So it does that.
So does the Cricuit interface with the Mac? I mean, are you running Mac software on it?
They've got Mac and iOS software. It's like a very basic draw design program, but it's sufficient. It's like you don't really do the draw. It's like a page layout program more than anything else, but it's got very accurate dimensioning so that you can see exactly how big that piece will be when it's cut. It's like if you need something that fits in 4.5 inches, you don't want it to be 4 3/4 inches because it'll hang over. When you measure stuff, it's perfect when it cuts. So it's easy to use too, and they have lots of templates, and they have a $10 a month subscription thing that I had for a while, but it just isn't worth it to me because I don't do enough. But it was good while I had it. It had lots of silhouette things that you can use as stencils for painting stuff, or for routing or whatever. So it's pretty cool. And t-shirts. And it does cloth too. It'll cut cloth. I only did it once just to try it. But I mean, you could actually, if you had an intricate piece of cloth pattern that you needed cut, it'll cut cloth. I cut mostly the sticky vinyl, which I use for all.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by the caduceus. I mean, the detail there looked phenomenal.
Well, and that's just one of its skills. And if I made this for a T-shirt on the Cricut, the level of detail would be the same, although this thin line might not be such a great thing. But all the thicker parts would be perfect, and it would cut away all of the negative space so that only the snake and the stick and the lantern were actually etched. The rest of it would be see-through. So on a T-shirt, if you put that on a shirt, that looks like it's silk screened on, and it's beautiful. And it really works with just about all of the media. I mean, depending on what you're trying to cut, some things you can't cut as precisely as others. Like that vinyl, you can cut super precisely, like precisely enough to do all that fine detail in the caduceus. But with wood, there's like the thickness of your pinky finger, maybe, if you're really lucky, and nothing thinner than that, or it'll just turn it into sawdust. But it comes with a couple of different cutters, and you can put a pen in it, and so you can create stuff that's a combination of colorized and cut out. So if you've got white vinyl and you need a part to be green, you can color it green on the screen, and it'll fill it in with the green marker. You have to go do it manually. You have to have the right color. I don't have any of those because, well, whatever I need, I like to create in Affinity Photo and then save it as a PNG or a JPEG and import it into there. I don't do any like manipulation in there or editing or I try to do as little as possible other than lay things out and size them in there. And the software, it's Bluetooth or USB. So sometimes I'll be out in the garage working on something wood, and I'll have an idea, and I can send it in here. I have to come in and insert the right material. But basically, I can do it on my iPad and send it from anywhere in the house, or anywhere, really. No, I don't know. Not anywhere. 33 feet. That's it. 33 feet.
I was anxious to talk to you about this just because I think we need to point out to folks that, your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac, you're not just doing necessarily digital things, but you can use that as a gateway to some of the more analog things like you're doing. I think is really
I
interesting.
love that I'm combining. Yeah, I love that I'm
Yeah.
combining my tech prowess, the fact that a new program for doing layout to send to a Cricut machine doesn't intimidate me. The first thing I did was go through about $100 worth of vinyl, wood, and iron-on stuff. Yeah, I just sat here making things, going, "Oh, this is so cool! I'm a maker now." It's just for the same reason. At some point, I want a 3D printer. I've tested them and I've played with them, and if I had one, I'd probably go through a lot of material, but I don't, and that's because before I get that, I want a CNC router, a computer controlled router. So with that, I can draw stuff on the Mac and have it carved for me. So I don't have to do a stencil and carve it with my own router by hand. I just put it in the machine, tell it how deep, how angled I want the edges, and then go get coffee. And if I want 6 of them, it'll do 6. Yeah, so I really want that because I work in wood, and being able to do that would enable me to do some of the things I do in a replicable manner so that I could sell them and, not have them take a week each to make. I do these, I call them triv art. They're trivets, but they're art. And they're great, but doing an inlaid one, I really, I take a loss if I sell it for $40 or $50. So if I could do them, if I could do 6 at once, then I'd make a profit. But if I do 6 at once, 6 in a row by hand, they're like, 3 hours each of hand work. And I like the hand work, but in fact, I've been making, I wonder, can I send you a file? I've been making, my wife said, can you make kitchen spoon? You ever see, you need a wooden spoon to make cookies and stuff. So every kitchen has a wooden spoon. Some of them have a wooden spatula or a stirrer or a mixing thing. So she had a set of these, I don't know, I think they're oak, but we've had them since we're married, 35 years. And they're wood. So they're beat up and chewed up and kind of ratty looking. And she said, could you make me a new set of these? And I said, yeah, I think I can. And so the first set took a week. It's like, oh man, it's so hard to get the shape just right. And how do you get a spoon to be perfectly concave with just hand tools? And so after a lot of trial and error, the first set was done, and she loves them, and they're pretty good. And then my son said, I want some. So I got some more wood and made him a set, and his are maple, and they came out a little better, I thought. And then, of course, I put a picture of that on Facebook or Instagram or something, and my son said, I want some. And so I had to go back to the wood store, find some nice wood, and make a third set. Now, is there a chat thing? I'm going to send it to you. You can edit it in later, since you edit these things, if it'll let me. Yeah, there we go. So I made a 4-piece set of serving things.
I love that you're taking this a whole different direction, but again, I think it's one that a lot of us overlook. We tend to get locked into the digital and forget that the analog's out there and that the digital can marry with the analog. And
even without the Cricut, there's a bunch of stuff I can do with my printer. Like a lot of my triv art is just artwork that's appliqued onto a wood block and then finished with bar top epoxy, right? So I don't need the Cricut machine. I could print something and cut it out with an X-Acto knife and be in the same place. But I am mixing the fact that I know how to print things and cut them out and print them on the right paper to do this with, or take them to Office Depot. I've done that for bigger pieces where I want waterproof pictures. So I had a friend that had this great picture of an oil well at sunset that he wanted mounted on wood, about 16 by 20. And it was a good high resolution photo, but something that big is going to wrinkle and stuff when you put it on, when you try to lay it flat. unless you print it on like vinyl. So they do, what do they call that? Where they sandwich it. So it's a photo sandwich between two sheets of plastic. Laminate. So they laminate. You bring them a digital file, tell them what size you want it, and they laminate it so that it can have a coating on top of it and not wrinkle or curl up or look weird. So that's analog and digital. I mean, it's like you have to form the wood and you have to make frame. And I like that I do both, that I get to come in here and play with the pictures and the video, and not the video, but the stencils, make them bigger, make them wider, make them narrower, make the points a little rounder so that I can more easily route them. Routers are notorious for not being able to do a perfectly square corner in a small space. If the radius, if it's a tight angle, it's rounded at the end because the bits are round. I mean, so it's always kind of a dilemma if you're doing a star. How pointy can you make the star? I like it. I've always liked doing stuff with my hands. That's why I play guitar. I've always liked being able to do and that was also a marriage of technology and analog. So the guitar is an analog instrument, but I only use it with GarageBand. I mean, I don't have an amp. I always play into my computer. If I play live, I play through GarageBand also. All my guitar sounds are in GarageBand. Why? Because I used to buy those pedals and stuff, but I wanted all of them. And you can't, when they're physical things, you can't afford them. But when they're not, when they're electric, you can buy them all really cheap. You get these bundles where you get, hundreds of guitar patches for $199. That's the cost of one pedal. So I don't have any physical, I don't have an amplifier anymore. I don't have a wah-wah pedal, although I wish I did, because that's something that's hard to emulate on a screen. Being able to work it while you're playing a chord. I can do it, but only with automated wah-wah. So I have to set the wah-wah going and accept what it's doing. And it's not right. I can make it sound almost like a real wah-wah. But other than that, all the fuzz and the choruses and phase shifters, I got all those things in my GarageBand arsenal for free or for $199 or however much, what is it, AmpliTube, and I've got a bunch of guitar emulators. It's just fun. And I'm not a purist. I don't need the little box on the floor going, and they always have grounding issues and add noise. It's like, oh, I like this. So yeah, I've kind of shifted gears from music to woodworking, but it's the same. It's something that lets me do some work at my computer, which I enjoy, and then go out in the garage and use my hands to do something other than bang on a keyboard, which I like.
Well, and you're keeping your hand into the Mac area, the tech area, so that you're up to speed on what's going on, what's new, and what can continue to feed this analog and digital habit that you have. Is that it?
Plus, still write 2 columns a week, so I have to do research, and I have to find things and come to my computer and just look at things for the sake of writing a column about them, other than discovering new things to make my art better. But I get to do both. It's like a column a week. It doesn't require that many topics. It's like, I'd say 8 times a year or 9 times a year, I got to write about what Apple just did, what they just released. And another bunch of times a year is housekeeping, like packing up or slow performance or cleaning out cruft and stuff like that. And really 52 columns a year isn't that much. I hardly ever feel like I'm running out of stuff I could write about. I have a little folder full of ideas for columns, and there's just tons. And if I run out, I can ask all my friends, "What's your favorite app?" and then ask for a review copy of those and start looking at them. I'm not that desperate yet, but I will be. And I like doing that. I like to know what have you used on your Mac or your iPhone that's knocked your socks off lately. I ask guys like you and Dave Hamilton and Brian and yeah, and then I have more stuff to write about. Also, I listen to Mac Geek Gab, which gives me about a column a month, just something they say. I'm serious. They talk about something, and I go, I think the Houston Chronicle and Mac Observer audiences would both benefit from knowing more about this.
Well, so many of those topics too that you just mentioned are kind of evergreen because the basic concepts stay the same, but the specifics change. And for better or worse, those specifics are really important in some of those topics that you don't want to be using outdated advice.
Exactly. You don't want people to think, oh, okay, all I need to do now is rebuild the desktop and it'll be okay. It's like, I don't think that's going to work. It hasn't worked since System 8 or 9. It's like, we don't rebuild our desktops. Holding those keys down isn't going to do anything. Or maybe it'll do something, but not that. Yeah, what about if you do M-based Mac, for example? All those keys you hold down when you start up your Mac to go into recovery mode, verbose mode, what do you call it? Firewire, single user mode, target disk mode, all the key commands for startup. None of them exist anymore on the M-powered Macs. So I wrote about that because you can spend a lot of time holding down a key and going, what the hell is wrong with this R key? And that's not how it works anymore. It's like, no, just keep pressing the power key until it says, choose an option. It's that easy. Yeah, why didn't they do that years ago? I don't know. I think maybe because now they own the whole enchilada. It's like they're not buying a chip from someone else and having to make it do things they want it to. They can make the chip do whatever they want now because it's their chip. I always wondered why we didn't have better like boot sequence stuff. And I think part of it might have been because we were working with someone else's processors. And they didn't allow low-level stuff like that until a certain point in the boot process. And Apple could say, well, that's just not good enough. We want to have a real window here before anything else happens with options you can click on. So anyway, that kind of stuff, it is it is like evergreen, but Apple changes these things often enough that a lot of these topics need to be revisited. Like things happen with Time Machine, or somebody comes out with a great Time Machine add-on. Like I don't know what it's called anymore. I think it was Time Machine Editor, where you can change the interval. It didn't have to back up every hour. And for a lot of people, every hour is overkill. Honestly, they don't use their Macs that much, and what they use them for doesn't really need to be backed up, which means they end up with these huge backup sets with a bunch of files that are in there 100 times. It makes my head ache. So we write about stuff like that all the time, and I write every year, couple years, that you should check and see if your hard disk or SSD, your boot disk, is full. Because I go to do service calls for people, and it's like, you have 40 megabytes of free space. I can't tell you how bad that is. No wonder you're seeing the spinning beach ball of death all the time. I said, I can make that go away in 5 minutes. We just have to throw away about a gigabyte of crap and reboot. That simple. It's like, really? That's why? Like, well, I write this every year or every 2 years. And Mac users of long-standing all know it because it's kind of etched into your primal consciousness or something. But, the average user needs to be reminded once in a while that when things get too full, life grinds to a halt. So that is every year or two, every 3 years. But I don't get a lot of people saying, you wrote about that a year and a half ago. Like most of the time, it's like, thank you for reminding me that I should have an offsite. That recent column was an example. I've written about offsite backups before, and I've written about backups. But Backblaze, I just renewed my Backblaze subscription. I realized that I've been paying them for 10 years or 9 years. And I'm happy. It's like that $60 a year I'm okay with. A lot of my subscriptions piss me off when I pay them. It's like, I wish I didn't have to pay you monthly. I just need your thing. This is more like, well, $60 a year is a pretty fair price for unlimited storage in the cloud that's painless. And,
Yeah.
before that, I had tried many other off-site backup services, and none of them I never thought any of them were worth paying for. And then Backblaze comes along, and it's just gotten better and better and less intrusive. It's just completely, I don't even think about it. But if the worst were to happen for my $60 a year, I know there's a complete copy of everything I care about in the cloud somewhere. And I can pay them to send me a disk tomorrow. They'll take all my stuff and put it on a disk and send it to me. And that's probably as good as I can ask for, because my stuff's at the bank in the safe deposit box. So if it's after 5, I'm not getting it till tomorrow anyway. And that's a 4-month-old backup now. Because I, even though it's on my calendar and I'm supposed to do it every month, snooze. That's what the snooze button's for.
But your comment about the startup disk buttons was particularly interesting, not just from the idea that you have to renew your knowledge every so often, but sometimes people need to have things explained to them because they feel like Apple changes things, sort of at their own whim for no real good reason, and a lot of times sometimes, but there are reasons.
Better, yeah. I also have to write when they share lock someone. Every share locking gets a column.
Yeah, but sometimes those two are natural evolutions of the operating system, I think.
I actually believe that most of the share lockings that have happened have been for our benefit. In the end, they screwed the developer, but in the end, having that being built into the operating system made total sense and really made it that much better for us, the users. And so, as much as I feel bad for guys like Dan, what's his name, from Watson, he got Sherlock twice. So anyway, I digress. You can look it up. Just look up Sherlock on Wikipedia, and you'll find all of them. But Apple has a tradition of finding really cool technology. Suitcase, the font managing, and startup. What was it called? A Suitcase, the font thing, and that got built in. Oh, look at that! Beautiful. Why did that come up? I'm seeing a picture of my spoons.
Oh, I don't know why.
I do. No, because I left photos open and I must have touched the space bar because I just copied it over.
Oh.
So I was seeing the preview of it, but it overlaid right over you. I thought maybe you were putting it in for no reason at the end of the show.
So I'm a big spoon. Yeah, it's I think you're right. Suitcase is a great example. Because fonts are such a big part, or were, well, they continue to be, part of the whole computer experience, and it just made sense to have a lot of that management stuff built in, as opposed to relying on a third party that, might decide not to support it.
Well, every year, but also every year had to update the app to work with the next version of the operating system. That's not a great way to have a utility that, has 11 months of life before it probably won't work anymore, and you'll have to wait for it to, be fixed. Yeah. It's not so bad anymore. I think most of the responsible developers have gotten in the habit of finishing their update before the new OS comes out. But a while ago, it wasn't like that. It was like, oh man, this new operating system completely broke Suitcase. We're going to have to rewrite it from scratch. It'll be a few months. It was only one guy, Steve Brecker.
Well, but also, don't you think? I mean, because we've all had the situation, Bob, where a piece of software we really depended on, the developer, for whatever reason, financial or otherwise, just decided not to update it, and there you sit. And so you have to either do a whole lot more work than before, or you have to find a replacement, which is not always easy.
No, and Apple, I think, came to the rescue with Command Shift 5. So after Snaps Pro kind of became obsolete and didn't get updated, there wasn't really a great replacement option. And I think a lot of people found something that was okay, but we all missed it. It's like we were used to doing it that way, and it did everything we needed perfectly, and then all of a sudden it didn't work, and it wasn't going to be updated. Then Apple came out with this Command Shift 5 deal, and it's like, oh, well, then Snaps Pro would have been Sherlock, because because it really is way better. I mean, it's everything you possibly could need in screenshots, every feature you could think of, I think. The only one that it doesn't do is one that I get from an app called TextSniper, and that is select a piece of static text, photo text, graphic, and instantly convert it into editable text for pasting. So if somebody sends me a picture of a tracking number, the picture, I can't copy it and paste it into Safari, but this TextSniper thing lets me just select it and then paste into Safari and paste the letters. It's really accurate.
Yeah,
I love little one-trick ponies like that.
Yeah, little mini OCR kind of things.
One-trick ponies recently. Yeah, mini OCR, but just for the little one thing that you want to suck out of a picture right now. Not open it in an app and select it and do something or whatever. It's just instant. It's in your menu bar when you need it, keyboard shortcut when you need it. And I use it all the time. I have found that it's really, really convenient because people take a photo of their, like a receipt or a tracking number or things like that, or travel stuff. And rather than copying it or opening it and OCRing the whole document or typing it, retyping. Oh God, how archaic, retyping all those weird, it's a lot of letters and numbers. I mean, the tracking numbers for both FedEx, for all of them, are finger twisters. You're not going to type that right if you're a touch typist and you're trying to type fast with letters and numbers, and it doesn't make any sense anyway, and your spell checker is going to be no help and might be a hindrance.
Yeah. Well, we have not talked in so long. I'm so glad we got a chance to reconnect. We got to do this more often, even if you are semi-retired.
Yeah, but let's try to do some tech stuff next time. Well, let me contact you. I've got something techie stuff to talk about.
We had a lot of tech stuff to talk. We certainly got into it. I think
that's true.
And you gave us all something to read too.
You don't have to be all tech. This your podcast doesn't have to, just because it's called MacVoices. Half of that's voices.
Sure. Well, and you're a Mac guy, so there you go. We got it. So we send people to the Houston Chronicle for your written column. We send people to the Mac Observer for your digital column.
And by the way, I'm glad you said that, because if you try to get it from the Houston Chronicle, you're probably okay the first few times, but they have a paywall, and at some point you can't read them anymore. And so I can't read them. I used up my quota, and I'm not about to subscribe to an out-of-town paper just to read my own column.
Right.
So, if you want to read it online, Mac Observer, no paywall, never was, never will be. I can say that with confidence because I know the people that run it. It's very unlikely there'll be a paywall.
And if we want to see your woodworking prowess, it's workingsmarterformacusers.com. Yes,
the same old thing. And I was thinking, should I get like Dr. Mac Woodworks as the URL? I mean, there's lots of permutations that I could get for $20 a year. Should I get one and switch it? No, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna leave it like that because 4,000 people or 10,000 people have that URL when they want to get in touch, and there's still it's still a contact me link, and I'm just gonna leave it where it is. And on the front page, I explained this used to be where Working Smarter for Mac users lived, but now it's Dr. Mac's Woodwork.
That's good. Well, good luck with the repairs from the big outages and all, and just for heaven's sake, be safe.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. I better go see how wet my towels are. For those of you out there in TV land, right before the episode started, I walked in the house and found water on the floor by my washer. And there's a leak in something, but it's not obvious what. So I said to Chuck, give me 5 minutes. I went and threw some towels on it. It looked like it was not going to run out the door anytime soon. So I came in here to do this podcast. But you just reminded me I got to go deal with that next.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's not a broken pipe.
I don't think it's a broken pipe, because why would water be spewing up out of the valve, in the wall where the water connection is?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's the valve, and I think I just have to replace it, but I have to go out to the street and turn off the water for the whole house before I can even explore it. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, it sounds
thanks.
good luck. Good luck. Good to
Horrible.
see you.
Yeah, but it's better than what last week. Last week it was just, I couldn't have turned the water off because the place where you do it is underground, and that would have been under 10 inches of snow. And I'm not sure where it is in my yard. I mean, I know approximately, but I'm not about to go out there. Wait, what? I don't have a snow shovel.
Yes.
I have to go out there and dig with my hands to find the manhole cover with the water thing. Not happening.
Nah.
All right, we'll do this again soon, Chuck. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure, Bob. Thank you. Thank you. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. He is Bob LeVitus. He will be back again often, as far as I'm concerned, if I can get him here. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.